Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. So happy to have some time with you together on this Thursday. As you know, Thursday is a day at the YWTV that we focus on Share the Mic Now, which is a time where we share our platforms with Black women in the community with our focus on amplifying their voices. Today is a tough day following a tough day yesterday for this country, a sad day for Black women, for Black people, for our entire country, everyone, everywhere. As we know, we heard the verdict on the Breonna Taylor case yesterday. Also, all over our headlines was the Wells Fargo CEO comments yesterday. And, you know, these headlines, these realities, you know, of our country, of our world, are exactly why we have chosen to share the mic. That said, I just want to say to our guest today that as I shared with her before we started, that I'm leaving to her to move us in the directions that we go in terms of our conversations today out of respect. This obviously was pre-scheduled, but you know, these are very tough days for our Black brothers and sisters and our Black communities to live through, and for us to ask them to talk more and to share on days like this is a lot. That said, we are going to focus on the great work that Natalie Mckenzie is doing and share that with you. And then from there, we'll see where our discussion goes. So with that, I'm so grateful and happy to introduce all of you to Miss Natalie Mckenzie, who I know many of you know. Her mission, her life's mission, is about helping women and making sure that their lives are authentic and complete. She is a philanthropist, a health advocate, a lifestyle coach, and an entrepreneur. She, for more than 2 decades, has been dedicated to serving and supporting women, particularly those in underserved communities with access issues to healthcare, education, opportunities. She has really made it her personal mission and of her family to focus on creating a better environment. Her commitment for shaping, you know, her vision for the world culminated in The Whole Woman, which is Natalie. And we'll learn about that as we're talking with her today. The Whole Woman is a multicultural wellness organization designed to help women live full, authentic, joyous, and impactful lives through mind and body revitalization and self-revelation. She hosts her own events with a purpose, and she raises a lot of money and makes sure that it gets to those who need it. And while quarantined, she did the ultimate pivot. And I happened to be a guest on her wonderful quarantine show. And if you see her little teapot off to the corner there in her little square, she really took the work that she was doing and didn't skip a beat. And we'll talk a little bit about how she, you know, kept the spotlight on her mission, you know, during this time through the pandemic. In 2019, she established Fighting Atrocities Against Women Worldwide, a nonprofit organization that has been committed to providing a platform to raise awareness, resources, and funds for nonprofit organizations serving women and their children. Her goal is to live a healthy, authentic, purposeful, and joyful life while helping positively transform the lives of other women. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Miss Natalie Mckenzie.
Hello, Helen. Good morning.
Good morning. How does it feel to be on the other end of this?
I know. I'm sitting there going, well, I'm having coffee because it's still a little early.
You haven't switched over to quarantine yet, right?
No, not just yet.
6 p.m. tonight. That's at 6 p.m. tonight, everyone. Quarantine starts later in the day. It's a quarantine coffee now.
But it's quite a pleasure to be with you. And thank you so much for thinking me worthy of sharing your mic. And it is just an honor to be supportive of the YWCA. You see, I came out in my orange.
I saw that. Wonderful. I love a good orange color.
But thank you so much for having me. And wow, timely, unfortunate timing. Last evening, I opted, and forgive me if I skip over your order of things here, but I think it's just so appropriate that we pause. I chose yesterday to not speak on the verdict, or rather, the charges that were not made against the officer and officers involved with the Breonna Taylor um, murder, assassination. And I chose not to speak on it because being Jamaican, I can think of many old sayings that we say, and we just believe not to always strike while the iron is hot, to sit in it and think on it. I also wanted to watch the protests to see if the agitators would present themselves to have it divulge into what they could then call riots. I also wanted to observe and listen to how it would be reported on the news. And then it made me think of something that was said some time ago, not so long ago, unfortunately, by Steve Bannon, and it's on record, so these are not my words. And yes, today I say them because I am the whole woman, and I am Natalie Mckenzie, and I speak freely. Steve Bannon did say they wanted a race war. And I am just fearful that they continue to agitate peaceful protesters so they can say they're rioters and create so much more division and more fear among us. And I'm sorry, Helen, but us sitting in our suburban homes, removed from all this, quietly participating in the protest in mediums such as this, we will soon be impacted by this. And this nation, this great nation of America, must remember that a house divided cannot stand.
Well, we are 41 days away from an election, and I feel like each day that has passed in the last the last few, losing our Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on Friday, hearing this news yesterday, the reinforcement is vote hate out, and vote to save everyone in our country and create safety and equality for all. That's where we have to vote all the way down the line. It's not about party. It's not about party. It's about creating social justice and equality for all.
I paid for my right to vote in these United States of America. I'm an immigrant. Mm-hmm. So citizenship costs dollars. I'm not wasting my money. In my town, everyone knows if they are having an election to determine the color of the trash can lid, I will be there to vote. Please vote, regardless of what's being said about your vote won't count. It doesn't matter. It's rigged. It's going to be botched. There'll be lies. You know what? Empty barrels make the most noise. Be deliberate, be purposeful, pay attention to the candidates. And like Helen said, don't just get stuck on party. Democracy requires an opposition and a leader. It's okay. We don't all have to agree. We all have to be respectful and kind to one another. That's it. That's what America was built on.
Well, so grateful we have you here telling us from your perspective. So you shared, that you're an immigrant and came here. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you evolved into being the whole woman? I know that there are many, you have quite a fan club watching, as we can see. But in addition to that, I know we have folks watching, that are here to be filled up. And your story is quite inspiring.
Well, I am Jamaican. I was born in Jamaica, and I'm sure everyone here has heard of Jamaica, everything Iriman, big up to Jamaica. I'm as Jamaican as they get. I arrived in the US 30 years ago, and I attended college. I came here on a full scholarship. I'd already attended college for 2 years in Jamaica. Then I went off to work somewhat in the hospitality industry. That's in my bones. And growing up, I was a dancer. I started dancing at 4 years old, and ballet, jazz, some tap, and modern contemporary, of course, African influence as well. My brother was a dancer and a dance teacher, so I had the luxury of being trained by my brother. When I came to the US, I moved to Nelsonville, Ohio. Most of you have never heard of this, and this is straight up in Appalachia country. And I'll never forget my first call home. I moved here on a Sunday, and on Monday, when I called home from that little phone booth in our international student's house, I remember saying to my mother, "Oh my God, mommy, I have never seen poor people like this in my life." I'm coming from what was then called a third world country. It was an eye opener for me, because then I realized there was a whole other side to America I had not seen before then. Being in Appalachia was the first time someone referred to me as an N, the N word, and I laughed because where I come from, that is not something associated with a color, it's something associated with a behavior. And the term really meant you had no class and no manners. And I thought, well, you're truly mistaken because the fact that you would say that to me, you have no class, you have no manners. And what that did then was it set a precedent for what I would accept as an individual. And it also set precedents for the other West Indian students on campus that no, we were not going to divulge into an ugly race conversation because where we come from, we're all of this. The motto for Jamaica is out of many, one people. You know, my heritage is Irish, Scottish, German, and African. So I wouldn't know where to start to curse you out about your whiteness, Helen, because that's part of my heritage. Nor would I know where to start with someone else. It's just not who we are. It's not what we're about. And so living in America has presented so many opportunities. You know, one of the greatest gifts is I met my husband, and we've been together 22 years and happily married. And it's afforded me the privilege of going back and forth home. I've had businesses in Jamaica while living here. I've had businesses here. And so I've had the opportunity to live the entrepreneurial dream by having business after business after business. But at each turning point, I've been able to serve, help, and lift as I rise. And America is the great America. Everybody worldwide dreams to come to America. My heart aches for this America that I see today because someone has let the boogeyman out the closet. And now he is reigning in America. And it's just like the Bible says, you know, the devil comes to still kill, steal, and destroy. And we've just allowed just evil tendencies and just everything bad about us to rise up. And it's going to engulf us if the best of us don't step forward and say, no, we cannot let this go on.
So when you think about the best of us stepping forward, obviously part of what we try to do with these conversations is to help create models, help create kind of a plan, for folks, how to move forward. What does that look like? How can we get the best of us to step forward and to take this on from your perspective, from your life experience?
My perspective is if we would shift the conversation from it being racist to recognizing that, unfortunately, America, Great Britain, most nations that participated in colonization, it really was never about race. And if we really look into the history, it never was about race. It's about caste. It was the need and the desire to have someone do our dirty work and to do it. And it's a business model and to do it for as little money as possible. Hence, slavery was extremely profitable because you get people to work for free. Well, what's the biggest expense in any business you have? It's your employees, it's payroll. And then the benefits that these employees have the gall to want. How dare you want health insurance? How dare you want sick time? When you think about it. And so America's problem is not racism. America's problem is caste. It's a caste system. And before the Blacks were at the bottom of the barrel, the Irish were fighting for the job. And at one time it was the Italian fighting for the job. And if you look around you, it's just always been someone scrapping, trying to get up. ahead and a crabs in a barrel mentality, as if there isn't enough. There is more than enough.
Yeah.
My husband often says the problem in this world is not that there isn't enough enough food or enough water or enough of whatever the thing is. It's just not enough love to share. And you really think of it.
Mm.
Why would we think that we need to have a six-figure salary, but then it's okay for us to pay someone $7.50 per hour? If it's not good enough for you, why should it be good enough for them? Yes, remuneration is always commensurate with your qualifications and the line of work you do. But really think about it. Why should we go to work 40 and 50 hours a week and still need public assistance? And so something is very wrong with a society that does not value those who provide the most rudimentary services. We've finally come to recognize the value in our teachers.
Mm.
When PhDs are being asked to stay home and be teachers for their own children, and they're pulling their hair out. They want to put the kids out, or they want to quickly go back to work because that's not what they were trained to do. Our nurses assistants, how about the people in the hospitals that are the ones stripping the COVID patient's bed after they have, God forbid, deceased, and they only make maybe $15 per hour? Call me a bleeding heart, but that's what's wrong with us. It's greed. It's fear. And nobody wants to really look at the true systemic issue in America because someone is afraid that, God forbid, Black people rise up and say, I'm going to take back what you have taken from me, which is really my dignity. And now I want to, somebody in the back of their mind thinks Black people want revenge. If you really look at Black people, they're some of the most forgiving people. Black people are the ones who always get up and say, stop, calm down, tone it down, chill out. There's always the few agitator. There's always one or two out there. But we really don't want your house. We just want our little cot to be safe. We don't want what somebody else has. We just want enough. We want the same opportunities for our children. Why does it cost $100,000 to get a college education? Come on. Why should you mortgage your home and go in debt just so your child can have an education? Why are our public schools different depending on what neighbor you live in? Right there, that's systemic. It starts before you even can't get a job. You can't get textbooks into schools. And who needs a damn textbook? Give the kids Google books or whatever you call them. Forgive me if I'm on my soapbox, but it's technology. Why are we fighting? I don't want to fight for the best of the worst. I want what you have. And let me fail on my own merits, but don't stand on my head.
Well, I'm grateful that you're sharing your perspective. It's important for everyone to hear it. In my mind, I'm listening to two things that you said. One is your husband's comment about that we don't have enough love. And it strikes me that thinking about you and what you built for yourself and for your community is so based and rooted in love and giving back. And then I'm also thinking, again, about voting, that all these systems, all these oppressions, all of these, what you're sharing is so rooted in the fact that the people that are making the decisions in this country are invested in keeping what is in motion. And so we really have to be thinking about every election at every level and, not only, vote out the hate and vote in people who will create different systems.
I completely agree with you there. Take a look at yourself. I'll be honest, and it's a little embarrassing, but during this COVID period, I've looked at how much I have that I could not use.
Mm.
I couldn't wear my shoes. I couldn't, even if I changed my pocketbook every day to go from my living room to my dining room,
Mm.
I couldn't use it enough. I couldn't use up all the jewelry. I couldn't use it's stuff. I recognize how much stuff we have accumulated. How many times can my husband and I go from room to room? In the meantime, we have so many people standing in line for food because the average American could not come up with $400 for an emergency. Yet we have our leadership saying the economy is great. We've bounced back. 200,000 plus people have died in 7 months. And there are those out there that say, yeah, more people die from the flu than die from COVID. Okay, you may have a point there, but have you seen 200,000 people die from the flu in 6 months? It's just something is very wrong here. And at the end of the day, it's just you have no heart. And if you're led by a community will reflect its leadership, or is it that the leadership reflects a community? We should take a good look at ourselves. How did we get here? Because he didn't break the doors down and walk in on his own. This leadership didn't get there on its own. We elected them or failed to participate. Either way, we are responsible.
Well, and this is definitely the time, 40, some odd days away from the election and about 2 weeks left to voter registration, to take back that power for sure. This is definitely the time.
And we take back our power. Also, I want to say, I am not actively physically protesting, and that has never been my way. I've always been a little less confrontational in that sense. But I'm going to challenge the protesters to be very careful and to be vigilant. Pay attention, because there are agitators that are working their way into peaceful protests so that it will divulge into riots, into fights. Last night, 2 police officers were shot. That is not indicative of a peaceful protest. And they keep bringing this negativity, this ugliness, these attacks, these taunts in the midst of the protest, because it's perfect cover for them to create whatever disunity they want to stir up in the country. So the protesters need to be very vigilant. As a people, we need to be very careful. Always pause, because when you get caught off guard, you're reactive, and then you have to handle the consequences. And people sometimes know just how to poke you enough, because I'm telling you, you poke me just enough and I will burn it down. And so I try my best not to be that person. And most of us will. Helen, if I show up at your house and threaten the lives of your children, the worst of you will show up.
Of course.
And so we have to be very careful that we don't allow ourselves to be provoked into that, because then we fall into the stereotype, and darn it, it negates all the good we have done. Vote, register to vote, make sure you know what the guidelines are, and don't put your ballot in the mailbox 3 days before election. If you already have your ballot, mail it in now. And if you don't know yet, pick up the phone and call, or go online and find out where the ballot boxes are so you can bypass the Postal Service. If anyone would have told me that the United States Postal Service was going to be used as a tool to restrict, manipulate, or distort my vote, I would have laughed. That's ridiculous. The Postal Service, stamps 37 cents or whatever it costs. I don't even know what a stamp costs anymore, because we buy it online. But really, guys, As someone says, get woke and
Well,
talk to your peers across color lines. This needs to happen. We're not each other's boogeyman.
Well, you share the exact sentiment that the election is happening now. The election isn't happening in November like it has historically. We'll put some links here in the comments to make sure that our viewers today are aware how they can follow up if they have any questions about the voting process. You are 100% right. This is not a time to wait. This is a time to take action. There's many ways to take action. Obviously, protests are what this country is founded on. People sharing, how they feel. That's definitely one way to do it, and should be supported peacefully and civilly. But voting and speaking your truth, and we're so grateful that you're sharing yours with us today, Natalie.
Thank you, Helen. It's an absolute honor to be here. And I do not take this platform lightly. The YWCA does a yeoman's job. I mean, the work that you all do to protect, elevate, support, and educate women and children, we are grateful for that.
Well, before we close out, I do want to give you an opportunity to just share a little bit about your Whole Woman and your initiatives and your efforts, because obviously they are so aligned with the work that we do and so aligned with this conversation we're having. So I just want to make sure, and we will put links to your organization here as well on your website, so anyone can go learn more about it. But please, can you share a little bit about that as well, Natalie?
Sure. On Instagram, we're actually TWW underscore the whole woman, just so they can pick us up on Instagram. But the whole woman, you're looking at it. I am the whole woman. We live life and we live it authentically. We use our affluence and our influence to support and help others. We are not a bunch of, my husband doesn't like the word affluence, but I believe if you have enough to share, that's an affluent lifestyle. And we encourage women of all races, creed, nationality, religious beliefs to come forth in a safe space where you're honored. Who you are is valued and valuable. And we ask that you come and just share your truth. The only way we can bridge gaps and understand each other is by listening to each other and being exposed to one another. I will never know who you are if we don't speak. And I love the fact that one of the things quarantine has really fostered is open conversations. And we get to speak with people, quote unquote, in their homes. And you get to talk and meet with people you usually are too busy to do. And so, what we do at the Whole Woman when we're not quarantined is we host events that bring all women together. And we raise funds that we use to support women and children's organization, primarily for health and education. Last year, we realized that we needed our own nonprofit space because we were always giving away to other organizations. And then we started fighting atrocities against women worldwide. And we use this platform to support women truly worldwide, whether they're in the Caribbean, whether they're in Africa, whether they're in Asia. We support and stand on all causes that lift, elevate, and promote women's security. We're oftentimes the backbone of our home, and we use our strength to foster loving households. We encourage women to not be so strong that you push the validity of having a good, supporting, loving husband or partner. And we create a safe space. Whatever it is you believe, we ask that you just believe in something and do it respectfully, and we'll honor that.
Well, I'm so grateful we have you in our community, Natalie. And although this has been a difficult time, I know that so many more people have been able to become engaged with you because of your pivot to quarantine. And everyone can watch 5 nights a week at 6 p.m. on Natalie's Facebook Live page. She's hosting really important discussions with people in the community and people from across our country that we should hear and know about. So hook into her, connect to the Whole Woman. We have the links here to her website and her Facebook page, her Instagram page. All the handles are going across our screen and on our comments, and we do encourage you to reach out and learn more about her work. Obviously, you know, the reason that the YWCA exists in terms of working to empower women is to create whole women like Natalie Mckenzie everywhere in our community. We want to grow them from young girls all the way through, and we know that our society will continue to move in the right direction once we're heavily populated with them. So thank you, Natalie, for taking the time today. And again, I thank you for sharing, especially on this of all days. I grateful, and you know, for you sharing your thoughts. Grateful for all of your followers that have joined us today, and everyone, we do hope if you're watching, if you have not signed up yet, that you sign up for our 21-day social justice and racial equity challenge. These are issues, these are conversations that we are talking about and want to educate everybody in our community on. For 21 days, you'll get an email with a reading list, or some videos to watch, a podcast to listen to help educate you on race, power, privilege, and leadership. And we are committed at the YWCA to creating a more just society, and we believe educating and unlearning things that we have learned is the way to do that. And again, we talked about we are about 2 weeks out from voter registration, about 40 days out from the election, and just days left to do your census. Please make sure that you are actively participating in all of these actions. All of what we talked about today can be impacted by actively participating and using your voice in these areas. So with that, we wish you all well, a wonderful day. Thank you so much. And we will continue to fight for a more just society alongside Natalie Mckenzie. Be well.